really like to talk about celebrities because I think they often have enough commercialization already. It's just, ambiguous thoughts and ideas that sort of can come across from people who have sort of looked at this and looked at that. I sort of did a similar thing like ages and ages ago with an Elvis conspiracy. But fans of his often said, he was just joking and everything in bits and pieces, and so he had ambiguous dates for this and that, and everyone would be like, in reflection, oh, he was only just joking, and so it's like, and so it's like anyone who knows him knows he was just joking. But anyway, I was sort of doing a general search on the internet. I had no idea why. I was thinking about this singer who seems to be a celebrity, and I'm like thinking, didn't he make a hit in like 2001 and 2002, like ages ago? And so I was going to bring that into focus in relation to a few other things about him. But then I looked up on the internet, trying to get timeline of his hits, and I found right away that I couldn't get, hard to press to find on a search engine his hits before 2009. So I thought I would try and show it. Hopefully it comes across on the internet the same as it does on my phone. So it just made me think that his career has really been shut down earlier than 2009 because of a conspiracy theory. So I was going to throw that into action because I know that there's a lot of thoughts and stuff, but I don't like to notice the celebrity themselves because I'm like, I don't really like to talk about the celebrity because I don't like to bring them into light. I think they've already had enough amplification. Whatever's on the news is just enough. Everyone's probably sick of them by now. But anyway, I know I sort of am in a way. I'm like, what, I sort of just look at their name and then I'm like, swipe that aside unless they've got a good song out. But anyway, I thought I would play around with the ideas of things and make a little video about it. It's not supposed to be really real, but it's sort of I was noticing when I was on the internet on my phone this morning. Okay, so we're sort of talking about Justin Bieber and his hits timeline. So I basically sort of looked that up on the internet and did search. So I'll do that now, and hopefully I'll come up with the same results. So you've got a lot of like little articles that sort of come up when you look on a search. Here's a list of all his songs and albums. But see, this is like One Time 2009, Less Lonely Girl 2009, Baby 2010. It's like anyone who's gone to his concerts were listening to these sorts of songs before these dates. I believe, unless I'm getting misconstrued. But anyway, like on this search, it was like, what is his first big hit? And then it's like this song called One Time in May 18th, 2009. And so then you go, what are all these other things? So once again, 2009, sort of little albums and things. And you're like going, really? Because hasn't he been like a big hit since like 2001? And so it's like they've redone his whole career all over again and sort of cancelled out the earlier career. So this is apparently on a list that submits all of his songs, apparently. So I haven't actually seen this before. But it's like, once again here, it's like One Time 2009, One Less Lonely Girl 2009, Baby 2010, Eeny Meeny 2010. So it's like his career has just started in 2009, which is kind of like ridiculous because, he was also around like earlier and earlier, like in 2002. Or I think it was 2001 he originally went international, but now he suddenly had his career chopped to 2009. It's like, why on earth, has that been chopped? And he used to have some other hits. I believe one of them was like Girl. and that's all sort of been vacated off his, this timeline of hits, and it's like, and that was like heaps and ages ago. So I've got here, it's a little bit earlier. It's got the evolution of Justin Bieber's career timeline, and you're like going, okay, well, let's take a look at this. It's got 2007, so it's a little bit earlier. I'm also going to click on his discography. Discography. I don't pronounce things very well because I never look up this stuff on the internet. And I'm like, yeah, not really much of a pronouncer of words that I'd never look at. So this is a really interesting thing. When did he hit his peak? It says in 2010 he hit his peak. So apparently in 2010 he achieved the most success he's ever going to achieve. And again, making him the youngest solo artist in 47 years. And you're like, yeah, I don't know what that is. I mean, he wasn't really that young. In 2010, I don't know how old he was, but it's like, I generally don't like to read things, but I'll take a quick look at his discography. Something around 2019, blah blah blah. It's like age 13. When was he 13? Age 13 on YouTube. His debut one time. Peak number 12 in Canada. But he then released a 7-track debut in 2009. And you're like, so that's his new beginning, and you're like going, didn't he begin ages and ages ago? I was like, what is all this weird stuff about? Like, haven't we seen concerts of him ever since 2002 and stuff? And it's like, and that's worldwide, and you're like going, that's a really weird aspect. So once again, he's got pictures that were probably from 1990 something, possibly, or whatever. As his first single, was he 13 here or something? And then you just keep going on and on with a mixture of pictures and work. So his career only started in 2009, and you're going, that's really weird. It's really weird. It's like the world sort of ended and really begun for him all over again. I once had all my diaries stolen, but if I hadn't, I would have had dates written in them, and maybe even ticket stubs that I may have pasted to certain pages to, say that, oh yeah, I've been seeing quite a few of his concerts before, and it's why has his career ended and started all over again? So what I didn't check was his biography. So I might just write that in quickly and see what his bio says now. Okay, so he was born on March 1st, 1994, apparently. These are all ambiguous ages. I mean, often in Hollywood, people just get given a profile and go with it. But anyway, we'll just say that was pretty much what was stated ages ago. So 1994 apparently. So I don't know first YouTube video ever. So that was apparently 2007. But I swear it used to be a little bit earlier than that. But I don't know. 2007 is oh, hang on, when was 2007? Yeah, 2007 is the updated version of his first video on YouTube ever, and it's you're going, what, 2007 now? It's all been altered. I was actually trying to go back to that thing that said his debut was 2009 at 13 or something. So he was apparently 13 in 2009, and so it's got this younger version of him, and you're going, really? So now I'm gonna go onto YouTube and see what they have there. So the aspect is, okay, technically, like, if he was born in 1984, yeah, he would be like, oh, in 2007, he would have been 13. Hang on, let me check my math skills. So 10 years old would have been 2004, and 13 was 7, and 15 is 2009. Is that right? I'm sort of trying to sort of suggest that he's totally been rehacked into this young person after having had made his debut like ages and ages earlier, like more like 2001. Because yeah, it's just like his internet based bios and filmos and whatever else has um has been remade to configure him into a new a new a new era kind of aspect. All right, so looking on the internet doesn't really give me any much hope to finding out anything new, because the oldest posting that I found was 15 years ago. And so that's like 2008. So that doesn't give you any hint. But I guess I could put the types of postings that are on 15 years ago. Hang on. It's like you don't have many picture and many clips that are tend to more than 15 years old, but like this one was 10 years old. So what was 10 years old? 2013. So I was gonna say that the oldest clip I found was like 15 years old, and he was like once again advertised as a kid with a guitar as before he's began to be famous apparently. So it's the same old story, but it's like it's been redeveloped into the more recent eras to introduce him to the world in guise of a new generation, even though he's had the same songs out previously and he's been singing them at concerts since 2002. But I think there was a huge issue with his age group, and so they did not, and so he was literally like misadvertised as being like 15 turning 16 in around 2002. And then they realized, hang on, he's not 15 turning 16. He, when you do the math, because like 5 years later, he was like regarded as 21, and everyone said, ha ha ha, you're only like 13, and then I think that preempted the idea that he can begin his career or his life again, and that included redeveloping his career to suit his age apparently. So and then all this has been reconfigured to have him on a younger platform to go with the idea that he's legitimately a younger person than he had been previously advertised. But they use all the same old footage and they're just putting it in new dates and everything, and you're like going, that's really weird. It's like someone's trying to mess with the real facts and figures, and when things were actually first released and remade. It's like redesigning someone's whole career, and you're like going, someone obviously wants him famous and they're giving him a take two. So I just think that's a really weird concept to sort of like put on anyone. And it's like, I don't think anyone in the whole entire world has ever had that done to their career. Technically, all these things are designed, all these stages of career are designed, and then it's like, and then to have it taken away and redeveloped is really strange. So that's like the strangest thing that I've ever sort of realized. And you're like going, no wonder you don't like looking at him, but but it's also like that's really strange. That's like the biggest, strangest thing that I've ever met. I literally don't watch music shows anymore, but you see like this first stage here in 2010. It's like only Canada and the US are supporting this first stage, and then of course I never say never is like going through like different charted things on here, but Canada and the US are like number ones. It's like, look at this big thing, number one in Canada and the US, and all these others are like, people liked him before. It's like if he wants to do it again, I mean, they're heading, within the top 100, but it's like, and then you've got, what else you got? Believe, Acoustic, and it's like, again, in the Canada and the US, it's like number one, but I think Germany is receiving it the least, and it did well in all these other countries, but it's like, oh, the US, the Canada and the US are the big supporting stages of his career, and then it's like, well, we think, he's pretty awesome, and then he's like, follow us, and all the countries are suddenly charting him. It's like, follow us, we're still calling him number one, all the other countries are charting him, so it's like this redeveloped thing that comes from these two countries kind of aspect. And you see, like, even with the albums, it's like, oh, well, that one's not such a charted thing, but in regards to other countries, it's like, 2010 album is like 2712, and then there's the next album, it's like not even charted here. Denmark seems to like him, but and then it's like, once again made it slightly into the top 100s, and then 2019, what album's this? The Best. It's like this weird ass career, not even charted. And it's like, would you develop a megastar's career on like like a mega career on these sorts of album sales? And you're like going, no. So literally, I think in regards to fame, I think they would have been better off sticking with the other buyer, because it seemed to be like the real amplification, because it's like it just doesn't seem very big, and then it's like, and he's got like a lot of this and a lot of that, but if that was his real whole effort, I mean, that's not like a huge anything. So you're like going, well, I think he was a lot more effective on his first stage of his career when he first went global and everything. It was like bigger, and there was a lot more number ones and all this other in more countries and all this other stuff. And you're like going, this isn't really a big thing. I mean, this is all just an ambiguous one-hit wonder kind of aspect that's being propelled from the countries that he's most connected to. So you're like going, these aren't the figures that would make someone famous. So you're like going, isn't this like the most ridiculous thing that you've ever seen? So I only just realized that today, because it's like I never look up him at all. I sort of had all my attention on other singers and other actors, and then it's like, I just thought that was like really mind blowing in a way, because I never sort of look him up, and then it's like, oh, I looked him up today, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so weird. So that's sort of my 2 cents of the day, that I do think that he's got a redeveloped career, like where they've just chopped all the old stuff which was like his first go at fame, to make a second go at fame, and it's not even touching it doesn't really seem to be touching very much. Doesn't seem to be doing that well. And it's like, obviously it's a little bit, you do know he's on the crash and burn, because you just look at him and think that everyone's like, wanting to just have him like retire. He's already made his money, blah, 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 have him retire and stuff. And it's like, everyone has the idea that he is on the crash and burn. He's been on that pile for a while. But it sort of surprised me that they redesigned his whole music career to sort of redevelop him from a new generation's perspective. And it's like, it's not that big, and it's all those, when looking at those charted things, it's not that big and not doing that well, but they've sort of done it for some reason. You're like going, why would someone do that? And it's like, I think it has everything to do with this, this idea that he was ideally younger than what he had originally been advertised. And then it's like, let's just chop off that old career and start him again. And so he's sort of turned back into being this figure who's, once again 13. It's like redoing it. And you're like going, well, he passed 13 ages ago, but he's supposed to be 13 in real life. And so he's just like, okay, he's doing the young drugs and getting the younger profiles up or whatever. And it's like, let's just redo this. And it's like, it's not really that big or anything. It's like, it's pretty strange that you have all this tweaking and twining, it's like, that's really weird.